Europe is often seen as a continent of diplomacy, welfare states, and soft power rather than raw military strength. Many people, especially outside Europe, assume that European militaries are weak, outdated, or dependent on others for protection. This perception did not appear overnight. It is the result of history, politics, media narratives, and the unique way European countries organize and use their military power. In reality, Europe's military strength is often misunderstood rather than truly lacking. One major reason Europe's military power is underestimated is the long shadow of World War II. After the destruction of two world wars, especially the second one, European societies developed a deep mistrust of militarism. Countries like Germany, Italy, and others rebuilt their national identity around peace, economic growth, and political stability. Military force became something to avoid unless absolutely necessary. This cultural shift still influences how European militaries operate and how they are perceived by the outside world. When a country does not constantly show its military power, many assume that power does not exist. Another key factor is Europe's reliance on alliances, particularly NATO. Since the Cold War, European security has been closely linked to the United States. American troops, bases, and nuclear deterrence created a sense that Europe was being protected by someone else. Over time, this led to the belief that European countries do not need strong independent militaries. In reality, Europe chose collective defense over individual militarization. This was a strategic decision, not a sign of weakness. However, to external observers, it often looks like dependency. Defense spending is also frequently misunderstood. Many European countries spend a smaller percentage of their GDP on defense compared to the United States or some Asian powers. This statistic is often used as proof that Europe is militarily weak. What is ignored is how that money is spent. European militaries tend to focus on high-quality training, advanced technology, and professional forces rather than sheer size. Smaller but highly trained armies are less visible but often more effective in modern warfare. Quantity is easier to measure than quality, which leads to wrong conclusions. Europe's military power is also fragmented, which makes it harder to see as a single force. Unlike the United States, Europe is not one country. It is made up of many nations, each with its own military, strategy, and political priorities. France, the United Kingdom, Germany, Italy, Poland, and others all have capable armed forces, but they are not always combined under one command. When viewed separately, each force may seem limited. When viewed together, Europe represents one of the largest concentrations of military capability in the world. The lack of a single European army creates an illusion of weakness. Media representation plays a huge role in shaping perception. Global media, especially English-language media, tends to focus heavily on American military power. Aircraft carriers, stealth bombers, and massive defense budgets dominate headlines. European military developments receive far less attention unless there is a crisis. When Europe does appear in the news, it is often in political debates, social issues, or economic discussions rather than military achievements. Over time, this creates a mental image of Europe as civilian and diplomatic, not military. Another reason is that European countries often prefer quiet effectiveness over loud displays of force. Many European special forces are among the best in the world, but their operations are rarely publicized. Intelligence sharing, cyber defense, electronic warfare, and counterterrorism are areas where Europe is very strong, yet these capabilities are mostly invisible to the public. Modern power is increasingly about information, networks, and precision rather than large armies marching across borders. Europe excels in these areas, but they do not fit the traditional image of military power. Europe's focus on international law and rules-based order also affects perception. European militaries operate under strict legal and political constraints. Military action usually requires parliamentary approval, international support, or clear legal justification. This makes Europe appear slow or hesitant compared to countries that can act unilaterally. However, restraint is often mistaken for inability. The choice to act carefully does not mean Europe lacks strength. It means it chooses when and how to use it. The end of the Cold War also contributed to the underestimation. After the collapse of the Soviet Union, many European countries reduced their armed forces. Tanks were retired, bases were closed, and troop numbers were cut. The focus shifted to peacekeeping missions, crisis management, and overseas stabilization operations. For decades, Europe did not face a direct conventional threat. This led many to believe that European militaries were no longer designed for high-intensity conflict. Recent events have shown that this assumption was incomplete, and Europe has been rapidly adapting. Another overlooked aspect is Europe's industrial and technological base. European countries are home to some of the world's leading defense companies. Advanced fighter jets, submarines, missiles, defense systems, and electronic warfare tools are designed and produced in Europe. The ability to design, build, and maintain advanced military equipment is a form of power that is often ignored. A country or continent that can produce its own weapons is far less vulnerable than one that relies entirely on imports. Nuclear capability is another area where Europe is underestimated. France and the United Kingdom are both nuclear powers with credible deterrent forces. France, in particular, maintains an independent nuclear strategy that does not rely on any other country. This alone places Europe in a very small group globally. Nuclear deterrence is rarely discussed in public debates about Europe, yet it remains a core pillar of European security. Geography also plays a role. Europe does not project power globally in the same way as the United States. European militaries are primarily focused on regional defense, crisis response, and nearby strategic areas. This regional focus can look limited when compared to global power projection. However, defending one of the most economically and politically important regions in the world is no small task. Europe's military posture is shaped by its environment, not by a lack of ambition. Internal political debates further weaken Europe's image. Public disagreements about defense spending, military missions, and strategic priorities are common in democratic societies. These debates are highly visible and often messy. To outsiders, this can look like indecision or weakness. In reality, it reflects democratic control over the military. Decisions may take longer, but they often have broader legitimacy and long-term stability. Finally, stereotypes play a powerful role. Europe is often associated with diplomacy, culture, tourism, and social welfare. These positive images unintentionally overshadow Europe's hard power capabilities. When people think of military strength, they imagine constant drills, aggressive rhetoric, and visible force. Europe does not fit that stereotype, so it is assumed to be weak. In truth, Europe has chosen a different model of power, one that balances military strength with diplomacy, law, and cooperation. In conclusion, Europe's military power is not weak, but it is different. It is quieter, more collective, more restrained, and more integrated with political and legal structures. These qualities make it less visible and therefore easier to underestimate. History, media narratives, alliance structures, and cultural choices have all contributed to this perception. As global security challenges evolve, it is becoming increasingly clear that Europe's military strength has been there all along, simply misunderstood rather than absent.